Hello and welcome to Just Africa, the show where we unpack the forces shaping our continent, from business to culture, innovation to policy. Today we are diving into one of Africa's biggest cultural exports, Afrobeat. Yes, you heard it, Afrobeat. But we are going beyond rhythm and charts to look at how the sound is driving business, economic growth, and Africa's global influence. Our focus today is Afrobeat economy, leveraging Africa's sounds for global influence and local growth. I am Olumide Shokoy, and I have the perfect gentleman beside me, Onye Priye Kumana.
Hello, Olumide.
So glad to have you.
So glad to have you too. Thank God it's Friday. This is Just Africa.
Yes.
And
one of the things I like to talk about is Afrobeat, because basically, if you look at it, let's look at the figures right now. Now, Afrobeat is contributing about $2 to $4 billion to Africa's economy. It's doing that big. And if you come down to Nigeria, the creative industry is contributing about 3% to the GDP of Nigeria. That's 18 to $20 billion. Now, Afrobeat in itself is contributing $600 million to $1 billion. It comes in music export, local consumption, corporate deals, endorsements, and all that. It is actually really doing big. Now, the music market, which consists of Boomplay, Audio Mag, and the rights, they are the ones contributing to this economy. And it also creates a whole lot of jobs. I mean, from indirect jobs like dancers, producers, makeup artists, even food vendors are tapping into this whole, new oil, if I might call it.
well, we can do more. Okay, I'm using the word "we can do more" in the sense that the potential goes far beyond the $1 billion mark that has been mentioned, and there are some bottlenecks that need to be, challenged. However, let's talk on the brighter side for a moment. The brighter side being that among African countries, you could see that the fashion industry, you could see that the movie industry, the music industry most especially, they move on their own pace. You could see that over the years they've transformed.
Yes.
With little or no government support. And on its own part, the massive kind of jobs that it creates along the line, you cannot really give a proper estimate of it. Because when you talk about movie production, you talk about the gadgets that you need to get. These are capital intensive. Yes. And not just the gadget that will do the job, the manpower that will stand behind the gadgets to operate the gadgets. Talk about the technology that runs into the system. We are not really there yet compared to the foreign climate, compared to the Hollywoods. But however, we are telling our stories, and we've grown to a level where we could see the massive growth impact on the continent of Africa, in Nigeria, in South Africa, and in other parts of the continent. So we're doing well. Music-wise, yes. Fashion. One of the things that really sold the music industry is the way these music artists and some of the movies, local movies, have used the way of telling African stories and really, brought in really paint the picture in the mind of people at the vicinity of Africa and the way they attire themselves. This in itself has contributed immensely into that. I don't want to mention movies, but there are some Yoruba movies that they really tell these stories. They really tell these stories extensively, and watching them and the kind of finance that they drive into the system. If you go to South Africa, being the most industrialized, they really put in a lot of technology into their movie production, into also shooting their music videos. And that in itself is a lot that we are dealing with. But I just imagine what else we can do, or how much we'll be able to do if we have some sort of government support by way of funding to movie producers, and where it would get us.
We can move from $1 billion to $1 trillion. I mean, it's possible. It's
very possible.
All right, so Afrobeat isn't just music anymore. It's a growing economy, from streaming and concerts to fashion, tech, branding, It's empowering youth, yes, attracting investors and transforming how the world sees Africa. So today, we are asking you this. Is Afrobeat the new oil driving Africa's global influence and economic power? And if the world is dancing to Africa's rhythm, isn't it time Africa owns the stage and the profit? What if the next big African enterprise isn't just tech or oil, but in sound? Find out after this break. This is Just Africa, where we unpack the forces shaping our continent. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Just Africa, your go-to show for uncovering what is powering Africa's growth, from boardrooms to the creative scene and everything in between. Now, on today's show, we will explore how Afrobeat is evolving from cultural sound into a powerful economic force driving business, youth empowerment, and Africa's global influence. Joining us via Zoom today, we have two guests. Now, the first guest, he is Julius Afolabi. Now, Julius Afolabi is a strategic consultant, premium income architect, and the creator of Designing Your Own Economy Framework, with a background spanning education, banking, consulting, and performance training. Now, he has helped thousands of professionals, business owners, and consultants transition from survival mode to premium relevance and income. So glad to have you, Julius.
Thank you very much again. I hope you can hear me, Clark.
Yes, crystal clear.
Having me again this morning.
All right, so let's start off with this. How would you describe the Afrobeat industry today in terms of its commercial structure and revenue potential?
Well, the truth is that the Afrobeat has that capacity to become Africa's fastest revenue generating asset beyond oil. Why? Because the new wave for driving the economy is sitting on talent, creativity, and distribution. And you see, Africa has the finest set of young people that carry this potential. All they need is a platform that is going to make that potential profitable. So you see it now. So we have the potential, we need a platform, and then the profits can roll in massively. We are already seeing what they are doing right now, just like you were doing in your analysis, trying to identify how much money and the potential income that this has brought into the African setting. When we talk about Afrobeats, definitely, you know, it's original, right? And there's nothing that sells like authenticity. When your authenticity is credible and it can be distributed to the enjoyment of a large population, it can easily drive traffic that can shoot up your revenue. So the potential of Africa or Afrobeats in turning the fortunes of a nation and a people into an infinite gold mine is there. So I can tell you crystal clear that the one that is beyond oil now is the Afrobeats. And we are seeing a lot of it happening from our young talents, their merger and their integration partnership with the talents in the first world, which creates a platform for diverse unity and income traffic, right? You will see, let's take, for instance, look at Burna Boy's performance at the Madison Square. For a second, it was oversubscribed even before the show happened. And think of how much money entered into or came as a result of that overnight performance, dressed in African clothing with original African voice and culture, all stated and very crisp in unique Afrobeats. So you can see that it is inviting even those foreign income, foreign traffic, tourist attraction, just to come and enjoy the vibes. Recently, I learned that some people traveled all the way from the Western world to come to Lagos to feel the vibe of the Kalakuta Museum, right? So, and that sounds very interesting for me. I remember one time that GT, you know, did a particular is it trade fair and created, it was directed towards fashion. They created a town hall meeting where fashion, African fashion was displayed and allowed people to come in there to shop and pay with their own, charge free. You understand? So that was another way of promoting Africa. We are seeing inviting tourists into the country to enjoy the African feel. At the same time, earn income from it, promote their business, their brand, their culture, music. It was purely African music, African wares on display. So it was unique. It's just like when you go to America and you're looking for the Chinese colony there. There is a place in America that is only Chinese that are in that place. If you go to a particular street in London and you pass through there, you will not know you're in London because you find Nigerians speaking all forms of language from Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo. That's creating a colony within a particular environment, identifying the uniqueness of your culture. So it's rich. Culture is such a very rich asset because it is original. The moment we add creativity to it and we can widely distribute it, you find out that it will invite traffic that people will go out of their pockets to enjoy. So the potential is massive.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Afolabi. Thank you. It's nice to have you on the screen once again. Been quite a while, but it's good in having this conversation with you once again. Now, how can we localize? Because you spoke of Burna Boy, the Davidos, and the Wizkid, and most of them they packed full. The O2 arenas and some of the arenas you mentioned outside this country. But it looks like some of this fund, this revenue that they make, don't come back to the country in the sense that they are stored offshore or they are stored in a foreign account. We want to feel the impact of these earnings in the Nigerian economy. So how can we localize some of these earnings? Maybe some of the big names and the big brands that put up this kind of show can come do it in a place like Nigeria, in South Africa, in Kenya, or in other places within Africa, so we can localize the earnings, which is very, very advantageous for the African economy.
All right. The sincere truth is this. The reason why those income or those funds are not coming back to Nigeria is simply because of the advantage of currency. The advantage of currency. Now you find out that everybody wants to stretch their naira. You want to stretch your dollar as well. Those in America want to stretch their dollar and move into other areas where the dollar is much more of advantage than in America. And those in Nigeria want to take advantage of the currency superiority. That's why they will store their income there. And you won't also blame those countries of residence of performance. They also home advantage is what they also think of. And then they ensure that that money is spent there. Now, how can we localize this fortune in Nigeria? Number one, where there are certain fundamentals we must tackle in order to be able to seat that kind of performance and that income in our region. One is insecurity. If we don't take insecurity out of the way, there is no way people will feel comfortable coming to spend. See, there's something I learned very early. Your happiest moment is your weakest moment. So insecurity thrives where there is excitement. Insecurity is easily launched in the moment of excitement. So without security, it is impossible for you to feel comfortable to spend and enjoy yourself in a particular environment. That's on the one side. Then you will, if you compare the infrastructural facilities and the tools, the equipment that are required, the sophistication of the infrastructure in those areas compared to Nigeria is like sleep and death. We don't have, even though we have the intellectual power and the creativity to be able to warehouse that kind of performance, because we lack the infrastructure, we are bankrupt in doing that. How many times did we want to host the World Cup and it has been shifted? Why? insecurity, infrastructure. Can you see that now? So you can have intelligence. If you don't have infrastructure, and you understand, and you are not safe, definitely you cannot scale. So there is no gainsaying about that. So okay, look at it. Why do I say that we have the intellectual capacity, the creative potential, and all that it takes to do that? Now look at Marvin Records, Don Jazzy, isn't it? Don Jazzy incubated Rema and Ira Star, right? Now, if you look at what's her name? Rema and this other young female artist. I think that's I think Ira Star. Yeah, that's it. So if you look at the two of them, they have become international stars as well, but they were locally incubated. So that shows our intellectual and creative capacity to create further export talent, Afrobeat potential. But because we don't have the security and we don't have the infrastructure, it is impossible to stage such performance. So it now behoves on the government to look into this potential beyond what we already know. A wise man said, the only way to progress is to divorce the familiar. So we are already used to our main sources of income, which could be oil and other tech, right? Some are saying tech is the new oil, but we are turning a blind sight to what is original and flows naturally. These guys get on stage, live performance, and we see what comes out of it. So it is inborn. You understand? So you don't need a lot of sophistry. It is just African origin, original African culture demonstrated with finesse and style. So you can see it that without infrastructure, without security, it is impossible to be able to think of localizing such and warehousing the income that comes with it. So if the home is not settled, definitely you can't have a party. So that's simply where I think our major challenge is in. We have the potentials, we are not creating the platform that can bring us the profit that will give us economic benefits beyond what we already know.
All right, thank you very much. I'd like us to look deeper into this infrastructure that you talked about. When you talk about infrastructure, us not having the right infrastructure, are you talking about locations? Also, in terms of security, is it that we don't have enough personnel on ground to make sure that these concerts are safe? I mean, we have Tafawa Balewa Square, we have the National Stadium, we have different stadiums. And in the same countries, not to divert, if politicians want to hold their campaign, they will hold their campaign. I mean, the last campaign that our current president had was in Lagos, and it was one of the most secured campaigns ever. So why can't we have that same copy and paste into Afrobeat?
When government is involved and politicians are involved, it is purely personal interest. And they have the wherewithal to throw their weight behind everything that will secure their personal interest. In politics, your personal interest is non-negotiable. And whatever it is going to take in Nigerian politics to secure your personal interest in your political ticket, you will bring it out. You cannot gainsay the amount of armored tankers and personnel. Personnel will be moved from their strategic locations to the place of political events, jeopardizing citizens' security in those areas. They will deploy personnel from the bank. They withdraw personnel from the bank to secure the place of campaign. Where is the balance? So that's why I'm telling you that the personal interest in politics cannot be compared with the economic wherewithal in Afrobeats, right? Who is it? Now, let's take for instance now, the Afrobeat society and the economy. Do we have a legislation that is so recognized that can guarantee that if you host a 120,000 capacity stadium field for a concert event will go hitch free, right? And that the hotels in which these people will reside before and after the event is secure enough, they will not be harassed. You understand? The national image will not be in disrepute for each one of them. Can they guarantee that? Can they beat their chest to that fact that they will be able to ensure the security of everyone coming in? Do we have that architecture? So without the Afrobeat economy or the Afrobeat, sector having a balanced measure with the government in power who has interest in developing the Afrobeat economy to attract income into the Nigerian economy, if they see it that vital enough and care to partner with them, then the kinds of interest and the security wherewithal that is deployed during political campaign and political events will also be equally deployed in these Afrobeat concerts and what performances. Then we can begin to talk about what the possibility of driving traffic into the country. Now, why am I saying this? I live in Calabar. In some years back, we had what we call the Obudu Mountain race, right? Which was done in the Obudu Ranch, right, in Cross River State. It was the initiative of His Excellency Donald Duke, right? The Obudu Cattle Ranch had a topography that was suited for that race. And then that race began. And I can tell you for free, the amount of what foreigners and the traffic it generated. But because of the inability to sustain that particular initiative, it is dead and lost. That had a unique potential, that was taking advantage of our topography, our creativity, and looking into international talentry, and economy to drive traffic through tourism. So you see, so that particular event and that initiative drove traffic into Cross River State, expanded its economy within the time of that particular government, that initiative. Now, there's no sustainability. It's dead and gone, right? It has moved into another place. Look at Kenya. Kenya has its also topography for training, and they have performed very well in marathon. Imagine that they begin to organize marathon races in Kenya and provide the required infrastructure for it. There will be a migration. Why? Because they have proven it in several competitions, like what? That they are good at that particular event. In fact, studies have shown that other countries that won the marathon went to Kenya to study what was the infrastructure that was facilitating the performance of this guy on the global scale. So you can understand what I'm talking about. So that we have the likes of Tafawa Balewa Square is not a guarantee for the security of the foreign nationals that will come in, not just within the stadium atmosphere, the stadium environment, but after the stadium, before the stadium, in all the other places where they are going to be settled. And we guarantee their security such that it does not damage our national reputation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Folabi. Now, for me, my last question would be about protecting intellectual property and the required infrastructure. On this part of Africa, including Nigeria, intellectual property and what the government needs to do to protect it, to make sure that it brings a certain level of standard into that space is somewhat lacking. What would be your advice to the governing authorities and even to those who are the biggest players in the industry itself, and how they can lobby the government to bring the standard to the place where everybody to be a win-win?
It's very simple. That's what you just mentioned now. You have just identified a problem that the judiciary and the legal world within Nigeria, the Nigerian legal system, can tap into as a solution. Now, by the time there is a policy document that enables you putting intellectual property in place, we know that protecting your intellectual property is there on ground. But are we implementing? Is there a law that protects these properties? Is there a law that enables them understand that these properties, they are originated from here and requires to give back to the economy, right? So there are intellectual property lawyers around. All we need is these Afrobeats, these our envoys, to be able to engage this and secure a place. I believe that the Afrobeat economy has its own body. They can, intercourse ideas with the Nigerian legal system in order to put in place a framework that enables them to be protected. Not just the intellectual property, the events can also be protected, right? So that the event is unique to the Nigerian culture and origin. Do you understand me? So that's the same way it can be done. That's how it can be done. So this is left to the Nigerian legal system, the interest, the political will, right, of the present government, and then also the managers of these stars, these talents, right, to be able to what, get that in place so that we have a single document that shows both the interest of government and the interest of what, the players, interest of government and the Nigerian legal system, a harmony of that produce a document that enables them to be protected. Not just their own intellectual property, but the event becoming a national signature event that can be recorded, that can even be, be on the stock exchange, right, on the Nigerian stock exchange as an investable what, asset. You know, an event, a thriving event can become an economic asset that can be on the Nigerian Stock Exchange and people invest in it. The moment it is protected, right, and the business orientation behind it is laid out, you have a prospectus that guide that. When companies are looking for income, what do? They prepare a prospectus. They give to you, and then you go to the market and buy. That is the same thing, an event, an Afrobeat cultural event that has gone national, that is protected by law, becomes a national signature event that at the interest, a win-win interest documented policy, can also be on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So people, you will find out that you will have Nigerians buy into that particular share because it's original. It will keep growing. We're talking of moving from $1 billion economy to a $1 trillion economy. Imagine that now that becomes a national signature event that is on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. You see, recently GTB got on the London Stock Exchange, but the Afrobeat has the same capacity to feature the Nigerian Stock Exchange and get into what, other stock exchange platforms. What happens? You find out that you are not just creating, business for this talent. You are creating national reputation. You are improving, scaling up national reputation at the same time creating legacy. You are creating history for the African origin and culture.
I thank you very much, Mr. Julius. I actually wanted to ask you a question, but maybe if I can ask and if you can get it done under 30 seconds. We have this issue of compensation. Songwriters, producers, and the likes, even artists, are always complaining of being fairly compensated. A situation whereby they offer services to a particular artist. He goes on, makes it big, and there's no compensation. I'm talking about music royalties, streaming, and the rest of them. Can we have a legislation? What can we do to make sure, can we get COSIN involved to make sure that producers, songwriters are actually, because when you put a song on streaming site, there is a place where you fill in the songwriter, the producer, and there's a percentage that goes through them. But and it's also a two-sided to the coin, because some producers and songwriters are not even aware of all this. So how can we get this in line?
It's very simple. It's having a broad orientation about compensation and benefits to individuals and all the stakeholders. Simple. Just have all the stakeholders in one room and have a memorandum of understanding. The moment you have an orientation and education to both performers and other stakeholders, because it's not just about the talent. There are other things that surround the talent that makes it what, tick and profitable. So everybody have their contribution. So there is value. You understand? There is the value. What is the value that you are bringing on to ensure that the events become profitable. So it's about putting the whole stakeholders in one room and getting a memorandum of understanding, a fair share. You understand? A win-win document that ensure that everybody's interest is captured. When this is done, then we can now look for a policy. We can now go for a policy to legislate it, and it is subject to review, right? Because as technology evolves, certain responsibilities will not be needed by individuals. Are we together? So it is subject to review, but we must have all the stakeholders in this Afrobeat economy in one room and have good compensation analysts to come in and check what the distribution would be. After that has been done, then we can now move into legislation to create a policy document that can be automatically implemented. So as long as you get on any platform, that goes into play. Today, we have seen that we are having a review almost on every platform that is international. They are looking for your tax identification number and your BVN. What is that? That's government setting in place a motion where it is automatically deductible. So you can see that's the same way it can roll. So I remember that happened while we were running for a university, and then those that were providing the internet service provider, the school wanted to automate payment of school fees. And in the backnet, as an operations manager, then we created a model that distributed the income as soon as a student makes payment, person's account. So you see, so it's possible with automation, but you need to get the stakeholders into a room, have a well-versed expert, value what the contribution of all the stakeholders, put them together in an agreeable form. When we agree that this is what goes towards for doing this, then we can now pursue a policy document to automate the distribution. So everybody is rest assured. You can go home that as soon as you perform, except you don't get stream. Once you get stream, then your income goes to you directly. So automation can solve that, but we need to have an understanding of what to automate before we can be home and dry with that. So it's not a problem. It's because there's no memorandum of understanding and there's no legislation backing equal representation, win-win understanding between the stakeholders. That's the reason why that is a challenge.
Julius Afolabi, you have been so brilliant this afternoon, morning, or whatever time frame. You have been brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
That was Julius Afolabi. He is a strategy consultant. He's also a premium architect and creator of Designing Your Own Economy. We have a second guest, so we'll go on a short break. And when we come back, we're bringing our second guest. Stay tuned.
Afrobeats is a classic overnight success story, except it didn't happen overnight. I'm happy to be here. One of the key things about the Omniverse is that it's designed to go beyond an event and designed to be fully something that people can engage beyond the summit. The point being that Nigeria has so much to bring to the world in terms of these things, but we will be bringing fresh energy, fresh ideas, a fresh engagement, and we're obviously open to collaboration. But hip-hop, it never dies. What's the difference between Thor and Shango? Thor is approaching $50 billion in revenue. Shango's broke somewhere outside Lagos. And that's a lack of imagination on our part, Africa, and they're all Nigerian. So to be seen and to be noticed is very hard if you're not in the place where all the noise is being made.
Majek Fashek's 1991 album, Spirit of Love, was a groundbreaking success in Nigeria. Earning critical acclaim and resonating deeply with audiences. Produced by Little Steven Van Zandt, the album masterfully blended African spiritualism, percussive rhythms, and protest songs infused with Black consciousness. Fashek's distinctive sound, marked by rhythmic pauses, a set of choruses, and the inclusion of talking drums, added to the album's energetic and impactful delivery. And spiritual struggle, reflecting the political and social climate of the time. The success of Spirit of Love, coupled with Fashek's tour alongside Tracy Chapman, cemented his place in the annals of the Nigerian music industry. In this music review and special report prepared by Bayo Olawe, we examined the profile, power, and legacy of Spirit of Love, a 10-track masterpiece that helped solidify reggae music's mainstream status in Nigeria in the early 1990s. The album opens with Beware, a wake-up call that urges Nigerians to remain vigilant against deceptive leaders and the manipulation of political power. The second track, So Long, Too Long, is a rallying cry for Africans and African Americans to awaken their potential and fulfill the dreams of revolutionary icons like Marcus Garvey and Martin Luther King Jr. In Majek Fashek Inner New York, Fashek reflects on his idealized vision of New York and the harsh reality of urban poverty and homelessness, revealing a sobering contrast. The title track, Spirit of Love, conveys a powerful message about the endurance of love over material wealth and worldly desires. On Jah People, the fifth track, Fashek criticizes oppressive political systems, likening those in power to Babylon people who exploit and subjugate the masses. He calls for resistance, lamenting humanity's obsession with control. In Religion is Politics, Fashek delivers a bold message about the misuse of religion to spread hate and fuel conflict. He urges people of different faiths to see beyond dogma and work together to build a better world. Holy Spirit presents a prophetic vision where 7 angels are sent to destroy the earth due to human transgressions. Yet, Fashek envisions a new heaven and earth, one filled with love, unity, and divine justice.
I can see brothers and sisters, they're sharing love together now. I can see you around and you were all on. Yes, I can see, yes, I can see, yes, I can see it. Brothers and sisters.
With Send Down the Rain, Majek draws on the metaphor of rain as a reward for diligent effort. The track reflects his spiritual longing and anticipation for success based on the principle of reaping what one sows. I'm Not Tired reaffirms
Welcome back to Just Africa. We're still looking at Afrobeats and the economic development of Afrobeat. We have another guest in the house. He is a veteran media practitioner. He is Bayo Olawe. So glad to have you.
Yes, thank you for having me.
All right. There has been this saying that Afrobeat is different from Afrobeats. That's with the S. Is this just semantics? Is there more to it?
Absolutely, semantics. Afrobeat is Afrobeat. You don't have to add or subtract. And we owe much to Fela Nicola Kupukti. We owe much to Bobby Benson. Bobby Benson at Caban Bamboo. That was in the 60s. Bobby Benson played a little bit of Afrobeat. Roy Chicago played Afrobeat. And then when you come down home, you see people like Sheyi Vibes. Sheyi Vibes and Ashake are on parallel lines. You know, they are putting a lot of innovations into Afrobeat. But when you say you add the S or you subtract the X, it doesn't matter. Just like Burna Boy said, Afrobeat is African music. It cannot be diversified. Afrobeat is African music, and there's no genre of music where you have so much of talking drums, so much of guitar work, so much of bass line, and Afrobeat cannot be imitated or copied. Afrobeat is genuine African music. Now some musicians, I think it's Sheyi Vibes. Sheyi Vibes is putting more of talking drums and more of Yoruba lyrics, oriki, into Afrobeat. That's the beauty of it. Even Flavor. Flavor puts a lot of Afrobeat into his music. So we should not allow the Western world to put a cover over our eyes and tell us what is ours, or try to identify what is ours. Afrobeat is typically African music in transition.
Now, if you look at Fela during his time, he was covering world stage. He was performing in different places outside Nigeria. And I'm sure he was raking in a whole lot. Now, compare that to what the Ashakes, the Davidos, the Burna Boys are bringing in. Would you say we've actually improved? Would you say we've moved further?
Yes, we have. We have moved further. And that's why people are saying that Burna Boy is imitating Fela and Nicola Kuti. And I say, no. Burna Boy is breathing a fresh air into Afrobeat. It's not as if he's copying. Even Made Kuti, the grandson of Fela Kuti, in his last album, admonishes Afrobeat as a medium of expression for African musicians, Nigerian musicians. Nigerian musicians have been able to modify and spotlight the essence of Afrobeat. And these Latin Americans are trying to copy it, but you can't do it. Manu Dibango tried it, he couldn't succeed. The other Senegalese tried it, but it's genuinely African. And in those days, Johnny Hastrop and the Mono Mono, they were playing this thing. And then you had Johnny Hastrop, Mono Mono, Michael Cree. Michael Cree was playing Afrobeat. And at a time too, we are the children of Nigeria, by Oyeka Wenu. That's an element of Afrobeat. So we have variations, but it's still Afrobeat. You can't replace it, and you cannot rename it or rebirth it. It's essentially African music.
Yeah, so I would need Mr. Bailai to name some of those musicians during those times where the Felas and the Oyema days that he just named in South Africa that are in the same class with the Nigerian musicians, probably maybe in Kenya or maybe in Ghana. There is one that was called Oliver, but I'm trying to get his other name. He probably from not Nigeria, from Benin Republic. He sang a specific song, and the song is a classic. It sounds like a Yoruba language that he used to sing the song. He was giving his daughter out as a bride. His name is Oliver something. Oliver something. Yeah, so he sang that song, made his wave not only in Benin Republic, but also in Nigeria and across the whole of Africa. And it's a classic, it never goes off. So there are some other names that when Baba mentioned, when Mr. Bayola will mention, they are Nigerian names until we start looking outside Nigeria. Since it's just Africa, maybe we consider some of them coming from other African countries.
If you want to look at Marian Makeba, Makeba was singing ballads, or what we say, solo. And you can't say that is Afrobeat. Hugh Masekela That's the husband of Maria Makeba. He was a trumpeter, but he was also talking about African beats, and his jazz music was tuned towards some African rhythm. So essentially, African beats dates back to Africa. I cannot imagine a South African trying to imitate Afrobeat. Even right now, I cannot imagine anyone very near it. Even the so-called, the younger ones, Davido, Wizkid, Rema. There's an element of Afrobeat. You cannot divorce yourself from it.
Okay, so Mr. Bayolaye, who do you think pioneered that of Afrobeats? Is it the Fela, Nicola Kuti? Is it the Bright Chimeze? Or who do you think pioneered it? And at what time did you think we started, we hit the global stage and we were recognized for that, and it's something that just kept going around the world and will not stop?
If you want to talk about Afrobeat, I've talked about Bobby Benson.
Yes.
You talk about Victor Laya. You talk about Roy Chicago. You talk about, this is my friend, what's his name? Eddie Okonta.
Okay.
Eddie Okonta was playing high life, but top hip-hop high life. Then the old Warriors came and all that. Even in high life, there's elements of Afrobeat. So Afrobeat has been before independence, in a way, before independence. But gradually after independence, between the 60s, and then when we had Festac, it got blown up. And people came to realize that, yes. At that time, Jimmy Solanke was somewhere on Broad Street, singing in Yoruba, singing folklores. And Festac, essentially, gave the uplift, gave the drive for Afrobeats to come to the prominence, because Festac was really an embodiment of the renaissance of the African life, African civilization.
Okay. Mr. Bayolaye, as we speak, it is being studied in the universities as part of the repertoires when they study music, and not just music tertiary institutions here in Nigeria, including America and other places, because I remember vividly the African-American musician popularly known as Jay-Z was said he went to one of these schools. He was surprised to see that Fela Nicola Kuti's music score was part of the music requirement in one of the universities in America. Do you think Afrobeat has not only, pioneered itself or get itself to the place where it's bringing back returns into the continent and into the country via the Burna Boys and all of that, we are equally reforming education?
At the album launch of Madi, Femi was around, that's the father was around, and he was telling me that it's unbelievable the impact of Afrobeat in Latin America, Brazil, Venezuela, Argentina, Uruguay, Peru. That is unimaginable. That he's working on a project whereby he'll be able to quantify and identify the impact of Afrobeat on Latin Americans. And they are trying to put down their own variations, but it's still essential Afrobeat. The essentiality of the talking drum, the essence of the talking drum, there's the Goje, Burna Boy, he said in his last album, he's going to introduce Goje music. Okay. So that is breaking Africanness, enriching Afrobeat, and I think the sky is the limit, if you ask me.
All right, Mr. Bayolaye, last question. If you look at Afrobeat today, Nigerian artists, when they shoot their music videos, they're not even shooting it in Nigeria anymore. They're shooting it abroad. Their attires are not even local anymore. And you begin to wonder, what message are we sending out there concerning Afrobeat? So my question now is, how can Afrobeat be used to boost fashion, tourism, and investment?
And that is left to those of us in the content or the creative industry. I have said it a number of times too, that you want to shoot a movie, you want to shoot a movie for an album, you go to far-fetched places. You go to South Africa, you go to outside the country where you can get genuine and realistic sites. In Nigeria, particularly, I go back to this Made Kuti's album too. There were some areas where I questioned and I couldn't write. There are alternatives I could have used locally, and you have to you have to insist. You have to tell your producer that you want the Nigerianness in whatever I'm doing, and that's essential. Our producers should wake up and be creative and innovative enough to use our local talents, our local sites, our local what do I call it? Architecture. So, in shooting their movies, we don't want to. If we want to impress outsiders, we want to impress others with what we have, the richness and the vastness of our culture, not to bow and cringe at their so-called modernity. So I think Afrobeat has a long way to go. We will continue to enrich it, and the young ones coming to are following suit. And like I said, Afrobeat is it.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Bayo Olaoye. You have been very brilliant. Thank you very much. Yes, so this is where we will round off. Afrobeat is more than just a vibe. It is a strategic asset in Africa's development story. Now, as you have heard today, the sound of the continent is shaping economies, building industries, and changing how the world sees us, yes. But for it to truly flourish, it needs support from infrastructure to policy, from investment to regional integration. To our guest, thank you very much for your insights. And to our viewers, remember, Africa's future isn't just being built, it's being played. This is Just Africa. I am Olumide Shokwaya.
And I'm Oyinpriye Kurmale. Many thanks for watching.
Majek Fashek's 1991 album, Spirit of Love, was a groundbreaking success in Nigeria.
From your sweet Africa, rise from your sweet America. It's what to be done, Africa.
Earning critical acclaim and resonating deeply with audiences. Produced by Little Steven Van Zandt, the album masterfully blended African spiritualism, percussive rhythms, and protest songs infused with black consciousness. Fashek's distinctive sound marked